Hi, everybody. I'm trying to figure out my bangs and it's all backwards because, the screen. Anyway, it is good to see you. I am Crystal and Sophia. I'm an astrologer, astrological magician, psychic medium, mystic, the whole shebang. And this is our opportunity every week to start out with some really good positive energy and wonderful people. I was really quickly, before we jumped on, you'll see me in the chat, Kristen, as far as the NCGR panel that took place yesterday, which I'm going to do an adequate job of summarizing in a very small amount of time and also expanding upon, hopefully with better detail. In regards to that, yeah, no, it went longer than I would have liked, and I thought the moderator did a great job, but had a beast of a mission, making sure that several of the panelists were actually respecting the time and not going way off topic. So it was interesting, to say the least. But the long and short of that whole thing was to help educate people that we have new special interest research groups in NCGR that are happening. Now, the one thing that I don't think made very clear on the panel yesterday is you do have to be a member of NCGR. You just need like a year-long subscription for NCGR to participate in these surge special interest research groups. We've got groups on the asteroids. We've got groups on, I was really interested to hear the one on autism in astrology. I might like peek into that one a little bit. I'm not running that one, but I find it interesting. And there are ones on more psychology and remediation. There are all kinds of stuff. The one I'm doing that I'm really pumped about is going to be on annual perfections. Annual perfections is the technique that we use a lot here because it's a really accessible timing technique that takes you from feeling like I kind of understand astrology to, oh my God, I've hacked astrology really fast. And of course, it's not the entire depth of astrology, but it does give you that satisfaction of stepping over that certain threshold. So I'm really excited to be running not only this group that will get into annual perfections, learn how to do them really well, but we're going to take them to a new level and start analyzing what makes the most sense with annual perfections. How affected is a sign when it's got a planet in it as compared to the intensity of the ruler of that sign in a year? There's a lot of source material we will be able to work with here. So we are standing on the shoulders of the ancients with this one, and I'm very excited about it. Hi, Gabe. Gabe was there too. I saw you in the chat a little bit. I had to multitask. Sometimes when things are a little bit long-winded, I have to multitask in the background in order to focus, which is totally an ADHD thing, I guess. But yeah, I think there were some panelists who were doing a really great job and bringing really valuable insights into what research looks like and how to do it in a way that actually gets you results you can work with so you don't just sit spinning forever. And I loved that. And then there were other panelists that I think are there because they're looking for a capstone on their career, which is, I can appreciate it. I get more excited about things that are progress focused. And that's where the annual perfections comes in. Gabe actually, yeah, Gabe actually gave a really great talk on annual perfections at a NORWAC conference year before last, I believe. So there's a lot of fun stuff to get into with that. And you've seen me use it here a bunch of times. If you wanted to get more acquainted with it, of course, we're going to bring in understanding the natal promise, which is really just getting to know a planet's situation in your chart, which will help you actually translate your chart in general. So this is going to be a really easy access to what does my chart mean, and then how can I start using timing techniques to live more consciously with sort of a theme every year and a planet to keep my eye on and build a relationship with. That's the gist and just the very basics of what you'll get, and then we get to go even deeper. But I promise you it will be fun. The great thing with perfections is there's not a lot of mind-breaking math or anything to it. There's just a lot of what do I observe and how do I feel about what that tells me about how this works. So it's very self-exploratory. And you can use your own chart for your examples, and you can use charts of celebrities or public figures or historical figures that you enjoy. It's open to all sorts of opportunity for our data, so to speak. So it's really cool. And I know it does require a subscription to NCGR or a membership to NCGR for a year, but there's a lot that does come with that. Honestly, I really do enjoy NCGR as an organization. It's why I'm on their board. You can check out their website for details on that. I don't want to wax marketing too much on this call, but if you have questions about that, let me know. I was corresponding with our president, Linda, yesterday to be like, hey, how do people know what the next steps are? If you want to work in the perfections thing, just let me know that you've signed up for NCGR and I will be able to get it to you in case they don't send out emails or something like that. But I'm also going to try to make sure they send out emails and stuff. As Linda mentioned, the board is now building a lot of members. We're acquiring more members with Earth in their chart. And so we are getting more organized gradually. I am one of them. So I tend to be like, hey, we need this detail. So good things are happening. I'm very excited about this. You also would have heard on yesterday's call that I am starting the Hellenistic track. Gabe, I'm going to be talking to you about that one. We have a really comprehensive education in NCGR, which is really cool. There's a lot of learning materials, and they have a really great certification opportunity there. That I say certification because there's nothing accredited in astrology right now, and there's nothing vetted, and there are no like grand standards that astrology has, but several organizations have these tests that are the best that we can offer at the moment, and NCGR is one of the most thorough. What it's lacking is Hellenistic astrology, and so my friend Vivian and I are going to pioneer their Hellenistic curriculum, which I'm very excited about because y'all know I want to organize that a lot. So I get to, and I'm pumped about it. So that's my like update on what we're doing in the world of astrological organizations. There's more about it, but you can check out the website. Let me know if you have any questions. I'm here. It's hi@crystallandsophia.com if you're wondering how to reach me. Just hi@crystallandsophia.com. Cool. So let me jump in here really quickly and say hi to Danny and Chrissy. And I think we had, was it Jen is here? Jenny, yeah, hi. And AJ, our wonderful mod. Great to see you all. Kristen, thank you for bringing that up. It was a great way to start. Aaron, good morning. Shauna, hello. All right, I think, have I covered? And of course, Gabe and Christina, there we go. Morning Magic Gang. And Liz, hi. Cool. So, yes, AJ is here being our wonderful mod. This week is kind of fun. The reason I say kind of fun is there's a lot going on, and I don't want to take away from the fact that there's a lot going on. But our new moon this week is in Libra, which is in Chariot with Venus, who is also in Libra. So the idea of Chariot is that the sun is in the same sign as a planet who is in dignity. So putting that together, Venus rules Libra. The sun's in Libra. Therefore, Venus gets a boost, like a +1 or so. But I don't like point systems in astrology, so it's a bad example. But anyway, it gets like a boost or a power boost from the sun being there and gets to be in the chariot with the sun because the sun is there as well. And so we have this new moon happening at 28 degrees of Libra. Venus is present, even though she's a little bit far behind them. She's picking up speed, though. She's cruising. I like it. And then the moon is going to be square Jupiter, who is exalted. So what we get this week, this is the part that I like the most, is that both the benefics are in good condition and they see each other. It's a square, but like good square good is active good, hopefully, in a lot of situations and according to several traditional texts. So we love that. And for the moon to be emphasizing Venus's sign, we also have that being positive for the most part, right? The malefics, Mars and Saturn, are both averse to this new moon. So they're not talking to the new moon. There's no devil whispering in the ear. There's only the angel. So we've got that to look forward to and work with. And I say work with because I really think that that's kind of where we're at. Maybe it's a little pessimistic of me to say there's not a lot that we feel right now that is just coming naturally. We are in the midst of building a society. So there's a lot that we have to just decide and we have to put energy into and we have to believe in and we have to cultivate and just maintain. And so that energy, though, is going to be stuff we actually like this week. It's going to be relationships and our ideals and beautiful things and getting into your art and your creativity and those kinds of things, giving yourself a break from the stuff that we can't control that might be trying to stress us out and bring down our moods, which is valid. But in that, we also have to figure out how we persist within those contexts. One of the things I'm sharing with my students next week in our applicable magic that we do each week, I share a spell with my students studying Patreon every week. And next week, they will be getting a spell for predicaments. And the way that this book, which is literally spells for the magic or spells for the apocalypse, I think it's spells for the apocalypse. Yep. Um, in this, we're learning about predicaments, which is prolonged situations where you have to keep swimming, but you got to figure out where you're coming up for air in and among all of that. So this is one of those times, Libra being an air sign, where we are going to come up for air this week. And you get to decide what that looks like for you. What does it look like when you take a break from the trudging through society and decide, I'm going to have fun, or I'm going to hang out with people I like, or I'm going to do something that makes me feel joy. You have the window to really access that, define it, and then secure it so that you don't have to just wait for when both benefics are doing well and there's a new moon in the benefic sign and all that stuff that happens like once a year. You can say, I know what to do now because I've figured out the system under this really auspicious bubble. And now I know I can repeat it later. So that's good, right? So this is the week where you figure out what is your sort of oxygen tank in the void that we are in right now, and how do you give yourself that extra breath when you need it? Because even in this situation, we do have, averse to the to Venus and the new moon. Mars is conjunct Mercury in Scorpio the very same day. And we've got a lot going on. Mars is also forming this really interesting trine between Jupiter and Saturn. And that's the thing I'm keeping my eye on for the next 2 weeks or so, as certain metaphorical timing. Like annual perfections, there are other timing techniques that sort of run behind the scenes. It's like if you have a program running in the background and it triggers an event in life, but life is still doing things, so you never know when that event's going to pop up. That's your metaphorical timing, right? We all have it individually, and then you can do it for nations and certain things as well. And I do it for the United States every year. You can get my video on that here on YouTube, or you can go to my website and scroll down a little bit and you'll get access to it there if it's easier to find, whichever works best for you. But we do have the outer, or as ancient astrologers would have called them, the superior planets, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn, forming a grand trine in water. Hey, Kathy. And so in this, these are the planets that shake society or shape society. Depends on what you're looking at, right? And so I will talk about this probably more next week, as we'll see it coming into its configuration a little bit more tightly. Right now, would you like to see the chart? Actually, would you like to see what I'm talking about so we can conceptualize this a little bit better? Let me know in the chat if the chart would be helpful right now, or if it would just be more brain clutter. Yay, charts. Love that. One or two more people will make me feel confident enough to share this. So yeah, I just want to make sure sometimes the chart's really helpful as like a grounding tool, and sometimes it's just mind blowing and doesn't actually help. So let me know. Okay, we got 2. That feels pretty good for now. And Chrissy says yes too. 3 is going to be my quorum. Hey, Rocio, good to see you. All right, so I'm going to share the screen of the new moon that's happening tomorrow. Here we go. Okay. So here we have our lovely new moon. So she's right here. We clear all the clutter, and what we get is ignore this. Okay. So the reason I say ignore this, I'm not just being like overly optimistic and bypassing. I'm not. Here's my thing. This is a very light blue. This Aquarius symbol here. This is a very light blue. This Libra symbol right here. This means that these signs are in like a trine to each other. And so we're seeing what here is lighting up a square that's not going to take effect until the sun and the moon tip over from Libra into the next sign. And here you go. The next sign is Scorpio. And that's going to be, I believe, the following day or two when the sun gets over there. The moon will cruise on in there pretty quickly. But that square with Pluto is something we'll talk about later. And yeah, it'll happen later in the week, and we'll see what goes on with that. First, though, I want to focus on the new moon, which is not within a close enough realm. It's pretty close, but it's not close enough for me to really want to draw it in to the new moon just yet. I'm being a bit of a stickler on that one. So if there is a little bit of a Plutonian kind of edge to this new moon, I wouldn't be surprised. But let's focus on this guy right here. The moon, you can see, is at 28. And if you look around the circle of the chart at the other planetary symbols here, the ones that have color to them is how you'll know it's a planetary symbol. These black ones are not planets. So we don't have to really look at them as much. When we look at that, we see that the moon is separating from Jupiter and applying to the sun in this case. And that's not terrible, right? That's actually pretty good. And because the next aspect is going to be a verse Venus, we don't get that lovely benefic enclosure, which I would like to have. It'll be applying to the next aspect being, I believe, a conjunction with Mars. So it's a pretty long run before the moon makes another perfect conjunction. I'm double checking my math, but I see that. Yeah. So I'm not including Pluto there because the moon moves really quickly. It'll go by fast. The sun, on the other hand, I'll pay more attention to, like I said, later in the week. So we see that happening where we're walking away from Jupiter and walking towards Mars in the sign of Libra with tomorrow's moon. So we just had a really great conversation with Jupiter. We're feeling really good about ourselves. And now we're taking that really good feeling and we're putting it into action. The reason I say we're putting it into action is Mars is in his domicile. Mars is trine Jupiter, applying to that trine, and has a trine from everything else. So there's not really much here saying that Mars is going to be an unequivocal jerk. I mean, Mars has those tendencies in general, as does Saturn, but sometimes it's Mars being impulsive. And so a lot of what I'm thinking about with this, considering this week and next week, because we see that Mercury is going to run into Jupiter and Saturn this week because he's running really fast. Mars is a little bit slower and is going to make those same aspects next week. So this is the meme that says, like, I'm only thinking about it. I'm not going to do it. And then next week it's like, I did it. So that's where I think we're at. This week, we're thinking about a lot of stuff. We're weighing whether or not we should do it. Think about the scales of Libra again, right? We're weighing whether or not we feel compelled to do something. And this is a good opportunity to take your pros and cons and feel that out. Next week, you will have the energy to take more action by a lot. And so then you can take aligned action. So this is the way that you can take an impulse and prepare for it. So by the time the impulse arises, you're like, I know exactly what I want to do. And then you're not going to do something that is quote unquote impulsive. It's actually calculated. We like calculated. So think about how that's going to work, right? Jupiter to Mars. We have consulted Jupiter, and Mars is our coworker with enthusiasm and energy. I like that, AJ. Thank you. That's a great example. Yeah. So thinking about these things, we see that a lot of the planets are in a decent dignity right now. I enjoy that. The sun's not. Give it a couple days. The sun will be, in Scorpio again, peregrine for the most part. But chariot with Mars. So that same benefit that the sun is giving to Venus right now, Mars is going to get next week. I'm actually going to be looking at Mars talismans next week because my Time Lord next year is Mars, and Mars is going to be on my ascendant degree next week. And I'm just like, this is a good time to try and see if I can grapple Mars into a good election for the rings that I use every year. I was able to buy a ring in Thailand of garnet, I believe, so that I can make my ring for Mars and work with that. Let's see. This is confirming for me for several things I'm doing this month. Jenny, I'm glad it's validating. I really like to hear that. I hope it's good stuff. Yeah, cool. Yeah, Rocio, I've been hearing another Mars Mercury situation is that a lot of websites were down this morning. I got to see that myself firsthand. Very interesting stuff with that. Noticing that the conjunction between Mars and Mercury right here, that's who I'm looking at when I think about this. Also, in this configuration, Jupiter is kind of adding gas to that fire of Mars here, right? And Mercury is connecting it to things of communication. So thinking about that. Let's see. All good things. So it's nice that it aligns. Yay. Misty, hi. Mars busting in bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. Mars is the one that like does not need coffee in the morning, but some people need coffee to deal with Mars, which checks because that's how people used to talk about me when I was younger. I've since learned to like be gentle with people in the mornings. I don't need coffee in the morning. I wake up and my eyes are open and it's great and I exercise and all those things. But some people have a more leisurely pace in the morning. And I've learned to respect that. Good news alert that loads of websites were down. Yeah, got a news alert that loads of websites were down. Yeah, it made like, it was the first headline on like Good Morning America and on my news sources this morning. So that happened. But again, the question of like, is this a big deal or not? My question that I'm observing, and this is what astrologers can do, right? Rather than being like, it's super important, I've decided it is. I'm saying it looks like this might have more weight to it than the average thing. The reason I say it looks like it might, and I'm excited to observe it, is that Mars is in this trine that we're seeing. Hang on, let me just, you can see it a lot easier now. Mars is here, Jupiter is here, Saturn's here. Jupiter and Saturn are in a pretty close trine, and they are what we call mutually applying. Jupiter's at 24, Saturn's at 26. Saturn is, of course, by numbers, ahead of Jupiter, but Saturn's retrograde and moving backwards. Jupiter is not yet. That will be next month that Jupiter retrogrades. So Jupiter is still inching forward. And in that time, Saturn is inching backwards. They are moving towards each other in that trine aspect. So they're moving to perfect that angle between them. And Mars is going to keep moving forwards a little bit more quickly than they do. And so that's coming in next week, where Mars is actually going to meet up with Jupiter, meet up with Saturn, and move on. So you won't get all three of them at the same degree at the same time, but they're darn close next week and coming into that right now because Mars, yeah, it's what Mars does. AJ says Amazon Web Service had a major outage last night for a few hours. Yeah. And it was interesting to see from that how many websites rely on that source, right? That was the first thing my brain went to, was like, wow, this one person had a problem and all this went down. Again, we see Mars and Mercury having that situation. And if we think about Scorpio, right? Mars is strong, so we see that happening too. But we got a couple secrets out of that, of like, oh wow, you own all of that. Good to know. So it's just, I felt a disturbance in the force. Yeah, it's the ripples that come from underneath the water, right? If we think about the water signs, this is really fun to get into. Your water signs are, feel free to pop them in the chat if you already know them, because it's always exciting to prove to yourself how much you know about astrology. Note on that, within the next month or so, I hope to have a new mini course on understanding your chart enough to navigate social media, with bonuses of things like to like look out for in social media that aren't as scary as they'll make you feel. That's coming soon. So I hope, if that's something you're interested in, let me know, and I'll make sure that I have even more enthusiasm in preparing it. Yes, Rocio, Scorpio, Cancer, and Pisces. So we have these three triplicities, right? Three signs are water signs. That's why it's triplicity. Not because, we sometimes think, oh, water, fire, earth, air, that should be the quadruplicities because there's four. No, it's how many signs are in that category. So in water, there are three signs. It's the triplicity. That's one way to remember it. The quadruplicities are the modalities of the chart, or the movement and the energy of the sign. There are three categories, but within those categories, there are four signs, quadruplicities. So when we look at Cancer, for example, Cancer is cardinal. That's the beginning energy. That's getting up and going. That's the revving of the engine, right? And then we have the next one, which is Scorpio, the fixed sign of these water signs. The fixed sign is when you've gotten up to speed and you're cruising, right? Smooth and steady. And then we have Pisces, which is the mutable. Mutable is changeable. So mutable is, I'm changing my speed, I'm slowing down, I'm taking a turn, I'm changing the vehicle I'm in, whatever's going on. Or, I'm taking the taking the boat and putting it on land, however you want to see that. So with this, we are looking at all of those being connected by these outer planets, which, if you look at several sources, I believe Dorotheus talks about it, might also be Rhetorius, but definitely Masha Allah and Abu Mashar got really deep into this with their mundane world astrology, which I'm talking to my students about next week as well. These three planets, because they are past the asteroid belt, are the superior planets, not because they're better than anybody, but because they are beyond Earth. They are superior orbits to Earth's orbit as compared to inferior or interior. So I would say outers, but when I get into outers, I also get inclined to bring in our like way outers of Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. So let's use superior for the purposes of just qualifying who we're talking about in this situation. It's these three. So these three, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn, are the ones who help us shape society. Why is that? Because they tend to move slower, right? So we're going to do some astronomy here. It's really fun when you get this in your head and you're like, you can see the shape of the universe and why astrology is actually measuring this. So what we get to here is Saturn is the furthest out of the 7 visible planets. Included in those 7 planets are the sun and the moon. So you have the sun, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn. Those are the 7 visible planets that they were working with in ancient times, because until we had a telescope and also math, we could not find the other ones. Neptune was discovered purely because they noticed an anomaly in Uranus's orbit. And they were like, based on math, there should be something here. And they looked here and they found it. So that's how fine-tuned we had to get to be able to discover these other planets, which is why some people will make an argument that I find pretty valid, that they get into the more deeper consciousness of society and the world and the bigger, slower movements and progressions of our collective, not necessarily just conscious, but the trends that we go through, the decades and the generations and the eras that we go through. So that's fascinating to think about as well. But when you think about the ones who are like physically working on moving the pieces of society, that is traditionally attributed to these three: Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. And so when we get to these three, Mars, of course, right, is very active. He's also the closest one to Earth, so moves a lot faster than the other two because he is terrestrial. He's closer to the sun. He's closer to Earth. He's just got a lot more proximity to us. So, of course, our perception of his speed through the sky moves faster than the other two. The other two are so far out there, they're gas giants. Think about that, right? They are so far out, they can't even be terrestrial. So with that, we get Jupiter and then Saturn. For an example of this pacing, right? Mars will go around the entire zodiac in roughly 2 years or so. Jupiter takes 12. So that's a big difference, right? Jupiter takes 12 years to go around the entire zodiac. Saturn takes 27 to 30 years to go around the entire zodiac. Things get real spread out the further you go beyond the asteroid belt, right? We won't even get into the other three out there, right? They are even longer, decades, like almost decades. So we see that Saturn is the really handy to remember. Saturn has rings, right? So it's almost like Saturn puts a boundary around himself. And Saturn likes to draw limits and to structure things and to put lines on things where there may not have been lines before. And so Saturn will help us build the foundational qualities like governments and religions and those kinds of things according to traditional sources of society, those things which kind of also help us establish the ideals of society. If you think about it, it's not always the most fortunate thing, but those things get really ingrained into the way we build our societies, right? Spreadsheet of the stars for real. And then Jupiter beyond that will start working in things surrounding. Thank you, AJ. That's perfect. Jupiter will start working in things around, I'm trying to remember the exact resource here. It was in Mashallah, but I can't remember exactly what he said because my brain's blanking. But Jupiter will help us figure out our resources and our, God, what's the other word? Anyway, he does abundance, right? He does expansion. So he does a lot of political stuff. I think it had to do more with politics. I think one of the rulerships that's given to Jupiter is senators and those things like that. So the people that are involved in the governance. So you have the boundaries of government, you have the people who govern, and then Mars, which is the actions that shape society or the conflicts that shape society. So without the conflicts of Mars, you don't get people negotiating in Jupiter, and you don't get the new laws that go into effect under like Saturn, right? So you can see that sort of domino effect. And that's one of the things that we can see as like our 3 categories of shaping society. I do a better job in next week's newsletter because I actually cite the sources in it, but it's just escaping my brain at the second. So That's what we're seeing talking to each other at this point. And in fact, mashallah, I do remember this because I've studied it a lot, talks about our greater conjunctions. Now, a great conjunction this is going to be pretty easy. The great conjunction is the conjunction between Saturn and Jupiter, the two outermost planets coming together as they do every 20 years or so. Happened last in 2020. That's the last time these two met up, and they met up in Aquarius. Look how far they've come since then, right? We've made progress, friends. But we are at that aspect right now. And then beyond that, you have the middle conjunction. I believe the middle conjunction is the conjunction between Mars and Saturn. Again, that was 2024. And then you have the lesser conjunction, which is the conjunction between Mars and Jupiter, which was also in 2024 last year because Mars was making his way around, right? And so these conjunctions are noted as pretty important to our Persian era astrologers during the Islamic era. And so those conjunctions establish new cycles, as conjunctions do. Think about the new moon starting a new cycle, right? Same thing goes when the other planets do the same thing. So they started something. What these two started something back in 2020. These guys, Mars with the others, started something last year, and now we're seeing the unfolding of that to a certain degree. And so it's really interesting that we get to see it at the same time, right? Mars can trine Jupiter without trining Saturn. Same with, Mars trining Saturn without trining Jupiter. That can happen independently. We're getting it at the same time that Jupiter and Saturn are trine each other. So this is something that's like a configuration. It's almost like you put a net or some kind of an umbrella over the world. And we're just like, hey, that's interesting. So this is something that you could see as like in biblical times, them saying, oh, I've seen a sign in the sky. This is kind of something that I would put toward that. More conjunctions. Again, they were paying attention to conjunctions more than anything. But this is an unfolding of what would have been prophesied or omenized, I guess, by those conjunctions, which occurred last year. So it's important to think what kind of stuff happened last year. Exact dates with that, again, will be in my student studies analysis next week. But what stuff happened last year that we're seeing unfolding? And this is a trine, right? So we're seeing it unfolding with ease at the very least. Typically, we expect a trine to give us good and positive results, but you have to ask yourself, good for whom, right? So one of the things that we think about is like, who has it easy right now? So that's so that we can say in our personal lives, these trines are happening and we can take advantage of the energy of them by transit. But in the omen set in motion in the last couple of years, who's benefiting from all of this on a larger scale? And this again is where I'm gonna stop sharing the screen so I can make better eye contact. This is where I implore you. Again, we're thinking about what we have control over. Yes, the world is shaping itself. Yes, you do have a role to play in it. Yes, your choices matter. Yes, your actions make a difference. But if you're always thinking about that picture and never about what's going on with you, your aligned actions are going to be harder to figure out. So the more you focus on you, who you are, what you value, what's important to you, what you will tolerate, what you will not tolerate, the easier it's going to be for you to decide what action is best for you to take that will have its ripple effect on the greater picture. You can see how the as within is very important here in creating the so without. So I just really want to reiterate that because you have a lot more power when you're focusing on yourself as well. So starting with you, focus there. Take the energy of these trines. Let yourself figure, thank you, Shauna. Let yourself figure out where you feel the most influential and powerful. Put yourself in those situations. Remember, if you feel excited and valued and you feel like you're having fun, dare I say, you're in more alignment than when you feel like you're in adversity or you feel like you're running against a wall or those things. Keep focusing on your own path and it will lead you toward the places that you can make the biggest impact in a greater sphere. Do not worry. You will not miss out on your opportunities by focusing on the steps ahead of you. I have to tell myself this all the time, but I've seen it unfold in my life, in other lives, in history. So it's important to remember because we can get very caught up in the whirlwind of society. And that makes us feel small and meaningless sometimes. You are not small and meaningless. You are incredibly important and your actions matter. So in order to remember that and to focus on it and to allow it because that's all you really have to do. Just allow this stuff to work out for you. The way to do that is to say, what's the next step for me? What do I feel drawn to? What am I excited by? What are the things that I feel are calling me in life? And the very next way to figure that out is what feels fun right now, or what feels fulfilling? What do I know I should do because I know I'm going to enjoy that feeling, or because I know that it's going to mean something to me? One of the ways that I see this show up is what do I want to do that I know when I retell this story, I'm going to feel good about it? Because for me, everything's a story. So it's like, how do I want this story to go, and what actions create the story that I want to be able to tell? And that's my more tangible way of figuring things out in the moment. So let me just catch up really quickly here. AJ's doing a fantastic job of helping me summarize some of the data we've been talking about. Thank you for that, AJ. Yeah, Shauna agreed. Looks like Rocio said, very validating. I've been thinking about making less plans and stretching myself thin and focusing on myself. Yes, Rocio. And remember, this new moon that's happening tomorrow, let's zoom it back in to right now. This new moon is in Libra. Libra's ruled by Venus, right? So like, do the leisurely stuff, do the fun stuff that you want to do, give yourself a spa day, that kind of stuff. Libra, being of relationships and balancing things out, balance your life. Don't spread yourself so thin. Spend time with people who you feel valued by, not people who you feel will help you get ahead or that need you or whatever. They might, but they need you in a way that like you can actually function. This is where we get into that whole oxygen mask thing you hear on the airplane, right? If you pass out, you're not helping anybody. So make sure you put your oxygen mask on first. This is a great new moon to figure out, what is my oxygen mask in my life and how can I give myself more of it right now? Libra is an air sign, so that's even better as a metaphor. Yeah. So Misty, I care for my candle. The collective light is brighter. Yes. So I love that so much. If you care for your candle, you make the collective light brighter. And that is just like basic understanding, right? The more lights you have, the brighter the room. So yeah, definitely make sure that amidst the wind, you are keeping your little candle lit in whatever way fuels you. For me, honestly, it's little things I did for myself this week. I changed up my menu to be more seasonal. So my refrigerator is now transitioning into more of the autumn ingredients that are available, so that my body can have what it needs for this time of year and all the nutrients it needs in a really good sourced way. I'm working on, of course, the physical exercise stuff. I'm getting back into that slowly but surely. It's working. But also I'm watching my baking shows. If you've watched or listened to the Alchemist Inkwell podcast over the last couple of years, you know one of my biggest comforts is baking shows, particularly at this time of year, from now straight on through the new year. I'm so excited we are back in this place. But I'm writing. I'm, thinking about, what do I want to do rather than what do people need from me? Because again, what I want to do is going to set me up to be more available to the people that need me. So this is great, right? Great British baking show. Oh, such a good one, right? Less drama even. I like looking at things that have frosting on them. Honestly, it's really nice. Yeah. Jenny says, I'm really looking forward to it. Chance to learn and grow and have fun. That is such a good Libran statement. Learn, grow, and have fun. I love that. Yeah. Step on crunchy leaves. Yes, that's perfect. You can lift the doggos. Oh gosh, guys. So speaking of that, do you want to see me lift a doggo? Because I can bring Zelda back into the screen. Jack's birthday is this Saturday, but also Zelda and I have a morning routine where I get up in the morning and I bring them downstairs. I put them outside. I feed them, and then they go back upstairs and they cuddle with their dad until he wakes up, because I go into my exercises and I'm boring for them. But in the mornings, Zelda will do this thing because she's a corgi and she has to micromanage everything. Also, she's a Virgo and I love her for it, where she'll watch me clean out their bowls. And then if I try to do something that's not what she agreed to in the morning routine, she'll bark. And I'm like, I just want your dad to keep sleeping. So how about we don't bark? And what that, of course, ended up with, her nickname is Zelda Bear, because she's a bear. Okay, you can't tell me that that is not a bear. So in the morning, we get Zelda bear hugs, which means I pick her up and I carry her upstairs, and I get the hugs that feel so, so good from her, and she gets to be carried upstairs. So yeah, Jack is turning 10, you guys. I'm devastated, but also I'm so proud of him. I'm going to go disturb Zelda for a second because I can lift the doggos again, and I'm going to show you because she's adorable. Give me 10 seconds. Hey, baby girl. All right. And we have Zelda bear. Now look at this dog. Here you go, baby girl. Look at this dog and tell me she's not a bear. She's a bear. It's great. Yes. Yes, this is Zelda bear. For anybody who didn't know, this is our little Virgo. You can see it in her eyes. She's got everything figured out all the time. She knows the secrets of the universe. And she's managed all of it. And if something happens without her approval, you will know about it. So this is what Zelda bear hugs look like every morning. And it is one of the most heart-opening, wonderful things in my life. And I appreciate her for it. There we go. All right. Thank you, baby girl. Appreciate you. We concerned Jack, but it's okay. Yeah. Christina, no kidding. She sees everything. But also, I'm gonna go on about her for a second because I love her so much. She is such a good emotional support dog with zero training. She has been able to help me with all of the things, and there are things, as you know, we all have things, but dude, she has helped me so much with them. Like if you experience a flashback or whatever, this dog knows it. If you're about to get upset, this dog knows it and will tell someone so that they can come help you. How do I know? Because she's been there for me in those moments. And I truly appreciate her. Her hugs, even just what you just saw, feel so comforting and grounding. I love my little Virgo so much. So yeah. And maybe at some point, Jack's still a little bit difficult on the lifting side. He's like 2 pounds heavier than she is, but I'm in that phase right now where it's not necessarily the weight, it's the awkwardness of the displacement. So soon, hopefully, I will be able to lift the other doggo. Maybe next Monday, which will be like the day after his birthday, I think, or 2 days after his birthday, you'll get to see Jack on his little decades celebration. He's doing fantastic, by the way. He is a very healthy, good corgi. Ball is still life, and he will play it all day long. He has not lost any energy since he was 6 months old, I swear. It's one of my favorite things about corgis is they are energetic for a very long time. So I don't have to be devastated anytime soon. Yeah. Yay for healthy puppies. 100%. Yeah, he gave us the health scare earlier this year, but we think we figured it all out. And it was an investment, but man, he's worth it. So he's great. And of course, she's a bear. I'm telling you, she is a bear. So that is my side story about my dogs and how one of them is actually a bear. Yeah. AJ, thank you for the applause for the healing journey. I appreciate it. It's not going as fast as I want it to, but those are pretty high standards. I also have a lot of Virgo in my chart. So awesome. Cool. Well, we still have a little bit of time. I've got about 15 more minutes. How are you guys doing? Any questions about this week's new moon, about the astrology we talked about annual perfections, and the opportunities coming up with that through NCGR and our research group for that? I say research group, and I know sometimes that makes it sound like we're going to be wearing lab coats and studying vials of goo. That's not how it's going to be. Honestly, it's going to be very conversational, very accessible. I feel like it's going to be more of a community kind of thing. And we're going to be able to analyze astrology in a really fun way that you can actually watch it work. And that's what I'm excited to be able to share with people. So like I said, more info coming on that soon. We're going to start next month. It's going to be a monthly meetup, maybe like 2 hours for the meeting. If it takes 2 hours, if it doesn't, we'll end early. Like I'm not holding anybody to anything because like that call yesterday, I don't have much capacity to sit for super long periods of time. The one thing that I can do for longer right now is I'm in a course with the person who translated Agrippa, this box set that you can barely see back here, the 3 books of occult philosophy. And I can sit through that pretty well. I do multitask a little bit. but it's because I'm fascinated by it. So we'll need the subscription for the Perfections Research. Erin, yeah, it's meant as a perk for NCGR members. NCGR, let me actually look this up. Because I'm a member, but I'm also on the board. And I went ham and bought a ton of memberships a bit ago. So I was like, I'm going to be a member of everything so that I can be involved. But NCGR, if I can get the pop-up away, membership. Let's see. For a year-long membership, it's $70. And that gets you, like I said, honestly, a really good amount of stuff. We've got chapters all over the world. It gets you discounts on certain programs, discounts on conferences. I know UAC has a really nice discount for members of things. But yeah, also you'll know that the person running stuff behind the scenes, or at least one of them, is me. So we're trying to make it really fun and useful, and it's doing really well. Hey, Russ, good to see you. Yeah, so if you're looking for an organization to support, aka join, in astrology because you want to learn more about astrology, there are several good ones out there. I'm not going to downplay any of our organizations, but my favorite right now, and clearly Jack's favorite as well, is NCGR. I really like the team, and honestly, I might even end up taking more leadership in the board soon. So that would be fun. Yeah. Shauna asks if I was able to go as a corgi on Saturday. Shauna, so here's the thing. It was like 80 degrees. So no, I didn't get to wear my corgi onesie, but I had my sign and we did march, and it was great. It was wonderful. Honestly, it was like fun. It reminded me of picnics when I was a kid. I know that's a little weird, but they're calling them music festivals now, and it feels less overwhelming than a music festival by far. So more like family picnic, which I like. Yeah. So we saw a meeting of Skye Terriers in Scotland. They look like long-haired corgis. Oh my goodness. If Dan were here right now, he'd know exactly what you're talking about. My husband, Dan, loves Scotland. And of Scotland, he really loves the Isle of Skye. And of things in the world, he has told me that I rank number one, which is a huge privilege because I know how much this man loves dogs. So yeah, you are speaking his language, Misty. I think you two would get along really well. Whenever you say researchers, I see mages poring over charts and looking at telescopes. Jenny, that's my idea of research, 100%. If you're in the Modern School of Ancient Wisdom, we're doing that kind of stuff. If you come on any of our Ancient Wisdom trips, I'm always like, hey, see the moon? See that? That's the planet. So I really like the idea that research isn't necessarily gatekeepy or too dense and obtrusive or prohibitive. It's very much like immersive, and it's understanding, and it's walking through the threshold of the gates and coming into a deeper communion and understanding with the topic, in this case, the stars and magic behind everything. So that's one of the really important things to me. Yeah, I mean, I really want to kick down the gates that keep anyone out of anything that they desire truly to understand. I understand the benefits of what people consider initiation, but I think education is one of the best initiations we can have. And you can do that at your pace, and you can do that where you reach an understanding and you truly know something. And that to me is like the deepest amount of initiation. Like, okay, you can walk on coals, but do you understand what this is and what the relationship with this energy is? I don't know. So I would prefer initiation through education, which is something that is a lot less injury prone in most cases. Yeah. So that's my vibe. Anyway, other people have different opinions. Everything's valid, but if you like that idea, you're in the right place. So cool. Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love talking to you guys. Let me see. Anything else? Oh, that's the important thing that's up right now. So speaking about like initiation through education, an open source magical system that I am taking more leadership in there as well. I'm really loving the invitations lately, and I appreciate them greatly. Braucherei. You guys might have heard more about me doing Braucherei, which is a traditionally Eastern German folk magic that came over to the United States with the Pennsylvania Dutch became something colloquially known as powwow. But even the top of the line being our lineage and our group, we don't call ourselves a coven, we call ourselves a line. Same concept. We call it Bracherei because powwow obviously does not belong to the German language, let alone anybody who is white. So we're trying to rebrand that to the appropriate way at this point. But if you want to learn more about Bracherei in the land where it was developed in Germany from me, you can do that because actually next fall, so a year from now, we are going to Germany on one of our Trova trips. So we'll be there for like a week and we'll be immersing in channeled history. It's something that Em and I are doing together. Obviously, it's one of our Trova trips. We get to see castles and palaces. We're going on a Sound of Music tour in Austria. But in and amongst all of that, there will be intuitive, psychic, and folk magic workshops, and of course, astrology ones wherever I can weave them in. We have on the website, the link will be below for you to see all of our trips and you can see all the itineraries that's going on. But on the website, there is an itinerary and there are, I want to say like fill in workshops because we look at the itinerary and we're like, oh, this will be a fun workshop. But then the moment comes and the right people are there and the energy is there. And Emily and I are like, you know what do we need today rather than what are we planning a year in advance? And so we will be teaching and sharing, and I'm going to be bringing you talismans and spells that you can try and do. And I'll be teaching them to you firsthand. And I will be available all week long to excitedly tell you everything you want to know. And if you're interested in that, then you can join us on the trip too. And it would be amazing. I think there are still some early bird spots available, which have bits of discounts on them. And I'm just stoked. I cannot wait. If you want to see me giddy as heck to finally get to spend more than a night at a hotel in Germany, then this is the trip because I'm going to be bopping all over the place. I am telling you now, I can feel my energy next year. And it's not injured. First of all, thank God. I do have something I'm keeping my eye on next year as far as all that goes. We'll see when it gets here. But by next October, I think I'll probably be okay. And I'll be able to do all sorts of stuff. And of course, we're going right around Oktoberfest. So if you want to extend your trip and then stay longer and enjoy Oktoberfest, you can do that. We designed it that way. So we do our best to make sure that you get a really good, immersive, in-depth experience. And then you also get to pop off and do all the other things you'd want to do too, because life is a holistic experience, right? So that's fun stuff too. Lots going on right now. Lots of new announcements coming. Like I said, I'm reforming this course I did back in like 2020. And I'm going to update it a lot to give you stuff on like how to understand your chart in a very basic way that gets you through anything you see on social media. So you'll have that understanding that that's the limit of what you want to learn with astrology. You'll be covered in this course, done. I think I have it like spaced over 3 days, but that's because it's like 3 videos. So it's really not, it's not overwhelming at all. It's going to have some resources for it. I'm going to have some recommended books that I would read if you want to go a little bit further. And of course, further than that, you can always join me on the Modern School of Ancient Wisdom. Ask questions here, whatever feels great for you. But yeah, I'm hoping to have that done like within the next month or so. So that should be available. I'm really excited about it. Yeah. Bracherei is a magical healing system that originated in the Pennsylvania Dutch, descendants of the German-speaking immigrants to the U.S. magical doctors known as Hexenmeisters. So some of them, I love this, so is there a place for your book list? I think Patreon gets a book list right now, but I need to create a better book list just because I mention them all the time and it's hard to capture them all. So I'm also trying to figure out the best way to share book lists. But I usually share a book list in every course I do or in every like formal place that I teach. But yeah, maybe I'll just do like a Pinterest board and then you'll have a book list and links. I'll probably just do that. But on the topic of Bracherei came over to the United States with the Pennsylvania Dutch. And yes, there are Hexenmeisters, but not every Bracher is a Hexenmeister. Hexenmeisters work especially with hexes. And so some of us do that. I am in the group of people who learn how to, undo or, work with, against, however you need to, whatever the situation ends up being, negative magical influences. If someone comes at you, we learn how to push it back, return to sender, do all those other things. It's a necessary thing that you got to learn when you get into magic. So some people do it and some people stay away from it. I have a lot of Scorpio influence, so I like to lean into that kind of thing. And if you listen to the Ajarn who gave me my tattoo, I'm actually really good at it. So yeah, I am part of that, where we deal with negative stuff and help to make it not so negative, which is good. Um, yeah. Yeah, AJ, I know you do. And AJ and I are going to be co-working soon, and I'm going to be very grateful for some of the stuff that AJ has been able to collect as I just sit here and yammer on. So I appreciate you a lot. The Germans have such specific nouns. They really do. Yeah. And then Pennsylvania Dutch got even crazier with its language because it's a whole separate language, and it's insane how cool it can get. Yeah. Cool. Gabe. Yeah. So that's what's coming up. That's what's going on. Lots of stuff happening, lots of stuff developing in the world, in my life, and hopefully whatever's going on in yours, you feel empowered by it too. If there's anything I can do to help with that, please let me know. I offer consultations as always, but I'm here. There's a bunch of ways that I connect with you guys for free, and I'm so glad to do everything I can with that. Ways to connect for free, of course, every social media thing I do. Engage with me on social media. Ask me a question. I will film a video to answer your questions. I'm always looking for inspiration on what the heck I'm supposed to post on social media. So let me know what you want and I will respond to it. And of course, we have the Thailand Trova Trip segment recap coming out on today's episode of the Alchemist Inkwell podcast. So wherever you get your podcasts, including here on YouTube on the Alchemist Inkwell channel, you'll be able to get access to that episode. We will be recording next week's episode today, where we're going to focus specifically on our Sakyan experiences. So that's going to be really fun. And then on Friday, Emily and I will be live here on YouTube, and we're going to try to go live on our individual TikTok/Instagrams as well to make it even more easy to access. Yeah, the podcast episodes are always fun. I love the recaps. They're my favorite. Yeah, so that's some of the free stuff that's going on this week. Also, for more insight on this new moon, I already have the video out on that, so you can check that out here on my channel. If you guys wouldn't mind interacting, sharing, doing all the stuff that helps us let people know we exist so we can be more helpful, I appreciate it. We're doing our best here, just trying to make sure that in this crazy world, people find good resources and we hold ourselves accountable to be one of those good resources. So yeah, that's where we're at. Again, in this last couple of minutes, let me just reiterate how much I appreciate all of you, how much I love that you guys are here every week. You set the tone for my week in such a positive way. You make a huge impact in my life. So if you don't feel like you're making an impact anywhere else, please know you empower me. You make me feel great. And I hope that I return that and reflect that for you. Because you all are appreciated. And I love how much I've gotten to be familiar with the names in the chat and all of the people who join us here. So you're amazing. I appreciate you tons. And I hope you have a really fantastic week. Remember, we're going through some fun, fun transits. Tomorrow, also, Mercury enters the shadow phase of its retrograde. What that means, because you're probably going to hear about this a lot on social media. I'll probably post a video on it too, just to make sure that there's a balance here. The shadow phase sounds really dramatic, especially since it's in Scorpio. But the shadow phase of a retrograde is when a planet crosses the degrees for the first time that it's going to go over again during its retrograde, and one final time when it goes direct. So just know this is when you're starting to lay down the groundwork for what you will be working on during Mercury's retrograde. Figure out where Scorpio is in your chart for a little bit more nuance on that. Like I said, I'll post a video on it probably today or tomorrow so that you can get a little bit more insight on that, and feel free to ask me questions. I can't teach everything in a social media video, but I can teach something, right? And I can always, at least bring closure to something so it doesn't feel like it's leaving you hanging. And that's one of my goals. So yeah, we got to balance things out. It's Libra season for now. So yeah. Yeah. So when you hear about shadow phase, don't panic. It's fine. If Scorpio happens to be one of your angles, your ascendant, your midheaven, your descendant, your IC, you may notice it a little bit more. Same with Sagittarius, because Mercury is going to cross those boundaries. Scorpio is my rising sign. So I'll be right there with you and we can navigate it together. Remember, you can navigate it. It's not the end of the world. It's just a change. And sometimes change is exciting, especially if you decide it's going to be. I've had to decide that change is exciting so many times this year. And it's for me because I make it for me. So, if you ever want to hear more on how to do those kinds of things, I'm not just speaking off the top of my head with that. I have a lot of experience in doing it, and I find ways to be happy regardless. And you guys are definitely one of those ways for me. So thank you very much, Rocio, Scorpio, Rising, and Pluto. Same Z's. I will see you all next week, and hopefully I'll be able to show you some Jack in that time. But until then, have a wonderful week. Stay safe. Enjoy all the transitions that we are going through this week. And be very conscious of your thoughts because you've got good ideas and those can be turned into actions next week. All right. I'll talk more about it then. And I hope you have a wonderful time. Happy Libra new moon.